Okay, so I'm
Yeah,
connected.
no, 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 no. Yeah, no, 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 no. Yeah, no, 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 no. Melanated minds with the crown restored. Asiatic truth that we cannot ignore. Honor to noble Drew Ali, we rise. Nationality reclaimed, open your eyes. Hey, hey. Love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, the spark. No more strangers walking in the dark. Research first, let the facts ignite. Real Morse talk every week, truth over hype. This is knowledge, this is heritage, this is consciousness. Welcome to Real Morse Talk with your hostess, Prime Minister Durriyyah. Hey. Yeah, no, 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 no. Yeah, no, 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 no. Shadow hour. 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 Yeah, no, 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 no. Yeah. Shadow hour. You are now tuned into Real Morse Talk. Melanated glow, crown back on the throne. Asiatic spirit, yes, we finally home. On a noble Drew Ali,
No, put it all the
we
way up
proclaim
because I can't. It's not on me.
nationality restored. We reclaim the name. Yeah, yeah. Love, truth, peace, let it spark that fire. Freedom, justice, lifting hearts higher. No more strangers. We know our part. Real Morse talk. Truth from the heart. Real Morse talk. Truth from the heart.
And
Real Morse talk.
right.
That's right. Shadow hour. Shadow hour. Shadow hour. That's it. Rise up. Rise up. Rise up. That's it. Rise up. This is heritage. That's it. Rise up. This is consciousness. That's it. Rise up. That's your heritage. That's it. Rise up. Never haven't been. That's it. Rise up. This is heritage. This is consciousness with your hostess, Prime Minister Durriyyah.
the matter? So I just want. All right, it is Shadow Hour. Welcome to Real Morse Talk. I'm your hostess, Prime Minister, National Grand Sheikah Durriyyah Bay, and I am so pleased to be with you here at Shadow Hour at Real Morse Talk. I want to get right into it today, though. I have my water and I have my tea here, and I'm all set. But I want to seriously talk about the last episode we did, which was Thursday of the prior week. I was a little disappointed that we didn't have more people watching it or more sharing because it was talking about food and our health. And I know it's a touchy topic. A lot of times people don't want to talk about the food they eat, but it doesn't change the reality. It doesn't change the fact, right? So first, I want to always rise and give praises to the Most High, whom I choose to call Allah, for allowing me to wake up this rising in my right frame of mind with my good common sense, life, health, and consciousness, with the ability to stay on this road, the Islamic road, the nationally conscious road, the Asiatic road, because sometimes it's rough more than sometimes it's smooth. It's just like that when you're trying to live right. It's just sometimes it seems more than a struggle. But then when you know the reason you're fighting, then it makes it all worthwhile. So I want to give all praises to the creator whom I choose to call Allah. And I want to give a special honor to his prophet, the prophet that I choose to follow, Prophet Noah Drawley. I give honor to all my guests who came on the call today to find time to come on a call, to spend some time with me. I want to thank you all. So I wanted to get right into that topic because I was a little disappointed at the amount of people that sometimes it's not a lot of people that's watching it live, but after the call, there's a lot of people watching. And I was a little disappointed because I'm going to continue that subject today. We're talking about the reasons that we have food and we have cravings. And I think this is a very, very important topic. My granddaughter brought it up and we talked about that the prior week. I do want to say too that I want to give much honor to my producer because he's not feeling well under the weather. So we're going to put the cooking segment to the following week, and I'm going to send everyone out the information about the cooking segment. What I'm going to be cooking, so that way you could be in the kitchen cooking with Prime Minister, right? So I'm going to send out the recipe. I'm going to make a curry chickpea. So we're gonna make some curry chickpea. And my niece asked me to make a dessert. I don't know if we'll have a lot of time for that, but we're gonna try to extend my niece, my granddaughter. We're gonna try to extend it a little bit longer, maybe an extra hour if we need to for the cooking segment. But what I am going to ask you all to do is to join in with me. So if I send you all the information of what you need and the spices, and listen, you do not have to have every single thing that I put into the food, but if you want it to taste like my taste, you have to use the ingredients that I use. All right, so we're going to do that. I'm looking at doing maybe a curry chickpea, and we're doing a curry chickpea and a corn muffin, a very healthy corn muffin because it has no eggs in it and it doesn't have animal fat in it. So we're going to do that in a curry chickpea next week. And so we'll be right here, Real More Talk Live, cooking in the kitchen with me, Prime Minister. So I'm looking forward to that next week. All right. So I did want to get into tonight's opening segment. And so, I started creating notes for myself because I don't want to be on camera and be like all scatterbrained. You don't know, you're missing, jumping from here, jumping to there and everywhere. So I need structure and order. That's under the zodiac sign, that under the Western zodiac sign of Aries, that structure is important for me because under the when you look at the Kemetic zodiac sign, it says I'm under the sign of Pisces, but I am not going in different directions. So that doesn't really seem more like me, but that's what it does say under the Kemetic zodiac sign. It puts me under the house of Pisces, but in the Western zodiac sign, the one that they stole and took from us, it puts me under an Aryan sign, and I'm firing all three houses, and I feel the fire in me in all those houses. All right. So we're so you're tuned in to Rose More Talk, then it's Shadow Hour. And I just love that whole Shadow Hour thing. It makes me feel so good to understand what Shadow Hour is all about. And one of the things that Prophet Noble Drawley taught is he taught health and nutrition. He taught the Moors how to eat better, and he also created herbs and tonics for them also, so that they would be able to be healthier, because we came out of a condition of slavery, mental and shackled slavery, right? That being strangers in our own land, so they captured us in our own land and made us work for them for free. And so when you make somebody or force somebody into working for you into captivity, that's what slavery is. It's taking away all their rights where they have none, and then they're working for you under whatever conditions you provide for them. So there's no freedom there, right? So we were captured in our own land. So that's kind of what happened. So we didn't know how to eat right. We couldn't think right. And so the Prophet Noble Jolly, that's one of the first things he did was establish the eating laws, like how we should and should not eat. Now, under the founder, I know that he ate fish. I know that for certain. And the Moors underneath the founder ate fish. So they did eat fish. When it came under the reincarnated prophet, he didn't eat any fish or anything like that. He was more vegetarian, less Presbyterian, but he taught the sisters and them how to cook certain things, but he did not eat the flesh. Okay, so under the reincarnated prophet, there was no flesh eating. And then under the other houses, there was some people who went back to reverting to eating that flesh. And so a lot of times it depends on what house you came out of, what eating laws that you followed or went by. And so it has a lot to do with that. But the prophet told us, when you know better, you act better. When you know better, you do better. So even if at one time you ate flesh or you ate like that, and you know that now it's time to change that, you should correct your eating habits. You should make them for your better health. All right. So that's what we've been talking about, these segments. So we're going to wrap it up next week with the cooking with me in the kitchen. So I'm really, really excited about in the kitchen with you all next week, making that curry chickpea. And I'm going to make sure that when I send out the email, I'm going to send out the recipe, and plenty of time for people if they need to get some ingredients. But listen, it's a very inexpensive dish. It tastes very, very good, and it can feed your whole entire family. And we're going to do some curry chickpea, and I think I'm going to do brown rice. Brown rice takes a little longer to cook, but brown rice or either jasmine rice with it in case you want some rice with your chickpea. But for me, I have the corn muffins. That's enough starch, so I don't really want to have rice and chickpea curry and corn muffins. But we'll go over those things for those who can eat like that. All right, all right. So, uh, the topic of food is important, as I have recently discovered that there was a lot of inflammation in my body, puffy eyelids, and cloudy vision gone as I drink okra water. I know that's the truth. You told me about that okra water last week, and listen, I went and bought some fresh okra, and I'm planning on cutting it up and making the okra water and see how it works out for me. I'm really really excited about that. I just really want people to understand that it's not just mental health, it's physical health. You have to take care of your body. You really do. And so we're talking about this because on Real Morse Talk, we cover all those type topics. So I just want you all to promote this more and promote the video from the prior week more and let people see this is important to us because I was very, very disappointed in the numbers, very disappointed. If you go to the YouTube, you'll see the numbers too. I was very disappointed because it took off and then it slowed down, which means people aren't really feeling when we're talking about the food and things like that. But this is all part of who we are, our culture, our history, our legacy. And listen, we can try to get land back, we can try to do all these other things, but if without your health, if you don't have good health, you're not going to be around to see any of the successes that we do. So you have to take care of your health. All right, so I'm going to get into it here. Tonight's subject we're going to be talking about is you are not craving food, you are being programmed. We talk about a lot of programming mentally and things like that, but we do not talk about how food makes us programmed to eat it and how, if you notice, at every occasion, there's food surrounding those occasions. But not only the food, the types of food that are in those occasions. And so, why is that? And that's some of the things we're going to talk about today. All right. So, most people believe their hunger belongs to them. They believe their cravings are natural. They believe their choices are independent. But what if that is not entirely truth? What if those are not your decisions that you're making, but from the food you're taking in? All right. So, have you ever decided before, even when you feel hungry, I don't feel like eating something. I don't feel like that. I'm hungry, but I can skip that meal. And sometimes your brain won't not turn off because it wants that craving. Okay. Well, let us begin with that. Okay. So let's just say, you know how they say, never go into a grocery store while you're hungry because you make bad choices when you're hungry. So walk into any store, look at the shelves, look at the colors, and look at the placement of the food. How everything is put on the shelves, how it's placed, looking all pretty, stacked and everything. It appears that you have options. But what you are actually looking at is a carefully arranged environment designed to influence decision making. Items placed at eye level are not randomly placed there. Bright packaging is not accidental. Sugar, salts, and fats are balanced for a specific effect. This is not guesswork. This is by design. From a young age, individuals are introduced to specific tastes. Sweets become comfort food. Salt becomes satisfying, that salty flavor. I gotta have that salt in my food. And processed textures become familiar. And we talked about some of that the week prior, how foods, when they're processed, it makes foods easier to fix and cook, and they're processed with a lot of salt. So the foods are processed. Okay, makes it easier. Over time, it becomes a habit. Habits become expectations. Expectations become part of your identity. So when a person says, this is just what I like, you've already been programmed to what you like. Okay, who taught you this? Who taught you that this is what I like? And the great thing is, I know that for me, like with my grandchildren, I have a hard time getting them to eat the way that I eat because they were not raised in my household. And I remember I was talking to Sister Sarah one time, and she was like, "Oh, your grandchildren get to choose that food. We eat whatever my husband cook in the house. Everybody eat it, right? Because that's the environment that they grew up in. Whatever your parents eat, cook, you eat. I grew up in that type of environment too. The difference for me was that my mother gave me the kitchen very early, and I didn't eat the foods that they ate, so I ate differently So I could not just eat what my mother fixed when she did cook. I had to eat differently for myself. And so that's where you know that you're being programmed. If you ever watch, when you go, like I've been out to restaurants and things like that, and I'll never forget several of them, when you see a very heavy set woman come into a restaurant, most of the time everyone is heavy set in that family except maybe one girl where she's very thin, and you'll see everyone order all this other stuff, but she'll order a salad or something, right? Because she doesn't want to be conditioned to the way her family eats. But most of the time, if you're overweight or obese, your children are overweight and obese, and it becomes a thing. You feel like it's natural, they feel like it's natural, but it's unhealthy. And so, but that's the way that household eats. Everyone in that household is not eating healthy. And so everyone is what, when you're doing it with each other, you're enabling each other to eat that. So if I bring donuts in the house, everybody is going to want a donut, especially if they're good donuts. Everyone's going to want a donut. If I bring donuts in the house, if I bring ice cream in the house, if I bring cake in the house, it's all right to eat those things in moderation. But eating something like that every single day and consuming that sugar, salt, and fat every single day is unhealthy. But this becomes a pattern in the household. And so, who told you to eat like that? Who taught you how to eat? And that's why the subject of are you what you eat, because the bottom line is how you grow up, and food has an effect on you. And so, what we have to do in our households is start very early on with our children, and that's teaching them how to eat better. So, this is a run on, yes, from the prior week, but I wanted to cover a few more bases that we didn't get to cover in 2 hours because it's very, very important that we learn how to eat. Even reading food labels. One of the things we teach here online schooling is how to read food labels. How many times have you not read a food label? And I remember one time it was something that me and Taj used to buy for the children all the time. And I just happened, sometimes you get comfortable with the foods, oh, I know what's in there, but you have to look at the labels because they changed an ingredient on the food label. And, we both with this top was like, wow, they changed that. And so we found out it was changed. So we had to stop purchasing that product. So the bottom line is that you do not want to just think you know what's in the food. Even if you eat a lot of things you shouldn't, you really want to know what's in the food that you're putting into your body. Because remember those things I talked about, which is free radicals? What happens is when the free radicals, your cells, do not identify with what you put in your body, it stores it away as fat because it doesn't know what it is. It's not communicating. Signals are not communicating with your body. And so they stores it away. And this builds up where we get tumors, cancer, all types of illnesses, mucus, because the body has a bunch of stuff in it that it doesn't know what to do with. And so we have to make sure that we're reading our labels, most definitely. So this begins at childhood. So I want to say you're being an adult, you're programmed from childhood. Children are awarded with certain foods. Like, for instance, they celebrate, like, I see a lot of parents in the grocery store get their children candy, chocolate bar, whatever, to calm them down. Like, they acting out, look, give you this, I'll buy you some candy if you stop this, and they bribe the children with sweets. And sweets taste good as sugar, but it's other things we should be able to try to give our children outside of that. Because what's going to happen is, even though they may be still for that moment with all that sugar and you giving it to them, that sugar is going to build up, and by the time you get them home, they're going to be acting crazy, running around, or all of that. They're going to be on a sugar high, and then they're going to crash down from it. So it starts very early in childhood. It really does. All right, so we celebrate everything with food. Okay, it becomes comfort instead of nourishment. And that's the difference. We want to have foods that also nourish us, not just comfort us, but also nourish us. And so we talked about those prior week. Whole foods. The whole foods are where you're going to get your nutrition from. And it's funny because yesterday when I was in the store, I was like, oh, I want to make me a vegetable soup. And yes, I have things at home, but right off the top of my head, I just started picking up vegetables, and I had a taste for that because my body craves those foods because I've designed my body to do that. I program my body to eat the foods I like healthy. So if I get a craving or something, sure, I like sugary things sometimes. But if I'm not making it myself, I'm very, 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 very skeptical of foods if I'm not making it myself. If I make it myself, I know that it's not processed sugar. I know that it's not bleached with animal bones. I know that it's natural sugar. I know even though it's still sugar, the body cannot tell the difference whether it's organic or not. So they say I can tell the difference. So mental health is important. But I use a lot of coconut sugar and agave and organic sugar if I have to have something that's sweet. And so it's really important that the sweeteners, when you're making things that are sweet, it's important what sweeteners that you use in your food too, as well. Because a lot of artificial sweeteners are just as dangerous as sugar because the body does not know what they are. So even though you're not packing in the calories from that sugar, you are still putting something in your body that it doesn't recognize and it becomes dangerous as well. All right. All right. So food becomes comfort, rewarding, distraction, and habit. So, you see a lot of TV and a lot of things are subliminal, but you see it on TV a lot of times when it's a relationship and somebody breaks up with someone, you always see the woman got a great big old tub of ice cream and she just plowing it in her mouth or eating cookie dough. That's programming there from the television because everyone doesn't do that. They don't just start feeding their face with a bunch of sweets because it's satisfying. Because sweets are satisfying whether you're going through something or not. You do not need to go ahead and put sweets in your body like that. So there's other things you could do like meditation, yoga, things like that. If you're having a difficult time or situation and throwing food down your throat. Okay. But an emotion is attached to food. So even like for the holidays, like we celebrate January the 8th, and I know my children look so forward to January the 8th holiday. They all have their favorite food that I fix, but all holidays are surrounded with food. So most of the time we'll say, well, I'm gonna let myself go for the next day or two because it's the holiday. But if you decide to do that, you have to get right back on track because it's so easy to get off track when you're saying you're celebrating a holiday and then the holiday becomes 2 days, 3 days, weeks later, you're back into bad habits or old habits. And so everything surrounding food. Think about it. When you have a gathering, like a sister circle, there's food involved because people do get hungry and, food is comforting. When you're going into any type of engagements like weddings, there's food. People plan a lot of time and money around the food. What are they going to have? Who are they going to serve? All these things are around food. When you have funeral services, they have the repast, all around food. So everything is surrounded by food. Okay. You may not realize that, but a lot of people are triggered by stress, boredom, fatigue, and routine. So I know for me, every single day that I eat, I want to eat around the same time every day. And my body will start saying to me, I'm hungry. It's time to eat. But you might find yourself when you're in the kitchen trying to fix something to eat that you're picking and throwing things down your throat that are unhealthy. And I spoke about the very first food you put into your system is what your body registers throughout your whole entire day. I want you all to hear me. That's very, very important. And so you want to make sure that when you make your very first meal of the day, that it's a very good balanced meal of the day. I was talking to, I go to physical therapy for an injury, and I was talking to the people at physical therapy. And it's really interesting what we were talking about the food pyramid. And I was saying, they got rid of the food pyramid because it was not truthful, and they did what they call the plate method, and that was under Michelle Obama, because she realized that the, The pyramid, she probably knew for a long time, was something she was able to enforce, that the pyramid was an unhealthy way of eating. So then they started portioning the plate size, what you put on your plate. And then they came out with the vegan pyramid and the vegetarian pyramid. So these are things that came about to assist us with better eating habits. And if it wasn't for her, we probably wouldn't even have got that put out there. But she fought advocacy because a lot of children were obese at young ages, and she was trying to teach parents how to teach their children to eat better and teach children how to eat better. That was one of the programs that she had. Okay. So when we are stressed, a lot of times when we're going through stress, and stress can be mental, it can really get you mentally and physically. So you want to stress eat. It's called something. I need to throw something in my mouth. So I'm just throwing something in my mouth. So you're stress eating. Or you're bored. Oh, I'm bored. I don't know what to do today. I mean, just go down here. And I know a lot of times for me, cooking is therapy. So if I'm working on a project on my computer and all of a sudden I feel like I need to clear my brain, I need to rest it, I need to think about it. I'm one of those people that I'll go down in the kitchen and start baking or cooking something because that's my way of releasing that because I enjoy cooking. Sometimes it may be crocheting, but if I really want to get creative in the kitchen, I'll get in there and start making something like brownies, something that I'm able to eat that's healthy that I've made, a brownies. I really very rarely make cakes unless it's for someone because who's going to eat the whole cake, you know, or cupcakes or something like that. So, but I do go in the kitchen and I do start cooking. That's my release or therapy, or I start crocheting. So there's other things that you could do. So when you're stressing, we have to find other ways to not start eating because of stress. Because then you're stress eating and you're eating the wrong foods and too much of it. And before you know it, it gets out of control. Okay. Or boredom. These are signs and signals that naturally tell your brain that you want something to eat, you need something to eat. I gotta, start sticking. The next thing you know, you start with a bag of chips, and the next thing you know, you finish the whole bag of chips, right? You didn't mean to. You thought you'll get a couple of chips, but the salt from the chips start tasting good. The chips crunchiness of the chip, because we're programmed the crunchiness of the chip, and then to the before you know it, all of the chips are are gone, the whole entire bag. So that's something else to consider, okay, when we're talking about food. So I wanted to go over these things because, like I said, next week I'm going to be in the kitchen cooking. And so I want to give you all this information because I don't know when we may bring this topic up again. All right. Okay. So one of the things that there are combinations of ingredients designed to make one think that you want more to eat. It's also designed not feeling satisfied, but continue to eat certain foods. Use something that's quick, that you can repeat. So, like a lot of times, for instance, say you eating dinner. Let's just use that as an example. And you start feeling full. Oh, I'm so full. I've had it plenty to eat, because we're supposed to eat till we're satisfied, not until we're full. But okay, most of us probably eat until we're full. And then you say, oh, I'm done with that. But then someone offers you a piece of cake or ice cream. You see this in restaurants too all the time. And then you're able to get that down somehow. Do you not think that's mental? Because you were full. You couldn't get any more of the nutritional food in. But now it comes to the sweets and you find room for the sweets. So that, it's designed to make us feel like that what they put in the food, and we're going to go over that. I don't want to get too scientific on you, but for those who can follow me, do. But it's ingredients in the food that they put in the food to make you come back and want more and want more and want more of that food. So even if your belly is tight, you're going to find a way to get those sweets in. And I'm guilty of that myself. I've had, I feel like, I made one time, never forget, in our class, we made a cheesecake in our summer program, me and the students in our summer program. And I made this raspberry cheesecake, all natural cheesecake. And so I, wanted to have a slice of it. And I'm very easily to control myself. I'm not going to buy a great big old piece of something and cut it and eat that. That's not. If I want to enjoy something, you take a small sliver of it to enjoy it. But I remember that I wanted to eat that cheesecake, so I didn't get any more of the nutritional food, even though I was still a little hungry. I waited for about an hour or two, and then I ate the cheesecake because I knew that's what I wanted to eat. Whereas I could have ate more of the nutritional food, felt more satisfied, and then maybe or maybe not had the cheesecake. So that's kind of how we have to program ourselves. We have to be stronger than our desires, because sugar, that palate for sugar, I don't know anyone who does not like sugar. Anyone. Well, I did meet one woman who's addicted more to salt, but her palate is more of a salt. She doesn't really like sweets. She was telling me she likes salt, and so she doesn't really eat sweets. So there are some people out there, but most people do enjoy some type of sweet or savory type of food. Okay. All right. So sometimes you get cravings and consume foods, and then you get cravings again. You know, a person might say, I just always want something sweet after I eat, but that is not by coincidence. That's conditioning, reinforced by repetition. And again, I was saying that, like, if you ever go out, a lot of people like to go to a place. I remember when my girlfriend Eileen was alive, she used to love this place called the Old Country Buffet. And I didn't mind it. I don't, go in there and get salads and things like that. But a lot of that stuff is over a salad bar. But you have to be choice and picky with the salad or whatever you ate. And I never forget, she came off of all those other foods she used to eat because she was practicing Christianity, and she read the Bible, and it was telling her she couldn't eat all these foods, because one of the things that I make sure when people start hollering that they're Christians and all that, do you follow the food laws? Because if you're following this record you call the Piscine, it's the Piscine record, people call it a Bible, but if you follow it, it gives you food laws, foods you should and should not eat. And so, of course, me, I'm going to always be in your face. If you say you're a stumped down Christian or whatever, I'm going to be in your face with that, the food laws, this and that. So, and to make a long story short, she wind up not eating most of the things that's in that food laws that you're not supposed to eat. But she was really addicted to sweets. So she would order her food, and then she would sit there and eat like a whole bunch of different sweets by the time we would leave. It was her and her husband that would do it. But one of the things, he wound up having a stroke, and I thought it would cut her back on that, but it didn't. So that's conditioning. After you eat, you say, I have to have some sweets. You're conditioning yourself to say, I've eaten my food, now I can reward myself with sweets. And that's what happens. Okay. So now let's think about some things that when you, depending on what you eat, how your energy rises and falls. So we know I spoke about Dr. Sabi the prior week, and I have much honor and respect, all honor, peace and but benevolence be upon Dr. Sabi. I think he was a wonderful individual. Loved all the information I learned from him. But one of the things that Dr. Sabi used to always, let people know about eating, that if you eat something, and you fix it yourself, it's electric food. Like, for instance, it energizes your cells, right? So when you're eating foods that are healthy, that energize your cells, that's what he called it, electric foods. You could feel the difference in foods that you eat. I made some vegan chili, and I might have talked about that I was going to do that to the crew that does my physical therapy. They were asking me, well, how do you make vegan chili? And they were going on and on. So I made some vegan chili for them. And one of the comments that was made is, "Oh, I don't feel tired after this. I feel very light. Chili usually makes me tired and sluggish, but it was the chili that I created, so it wasn't where it was heavy down with grease and flesh, where you would get tired and lethargic after eating it." And so they were very surprised of how they still felt after they ate the chili. And so that's what I'm talking about, those electric foods. And so there, like I said, I have a cookbook. I spoke about it earlier. I have two things that you should order from me, and that's my alkaline recipes. I'm going to send you my from this book. I'm going to send you my curry chickpea from this book. And then this is about the truth about your health inside out. It talks about your health, and it talks about the things, herbs, and things that I have in this book that will help you with certain conditions for health. So please, you might want to go ahead and get those books. They're only $10. So put a donation out to $10 and get those books. It's it's something that you can benefit from. So you're going to purchase something and benefit from it. So anyway, I was talking about the electric food. So if you try even yourself an electric food diet for like 7 days, you will notice a difference in how you feel after you eat that food. Because it's important to, do you want to eat something? I was explaining how when I worked at the hospital, how the nurses at the nurses station would be eating all these food. They would order all this food out, and then by the time they ate their lunch or dinner, they was too tired to get up. They didn't feel like it, because what you're putting into your form also, your state of mind, what you're putting in there too. And so I was still bouncing around doing stuff. They'd be like, "Girl, how you have so much energy?" And then one girl said she always bring her food from home. I always brought my little lunch bag and brought my food from home. Every now and then I might have eaten out. Every now and then they have like the mushroom hoagies or things like that that you can get. And maybe every now and then I might order something, but I'm not ordering a cheesesteak. I will order a mushroom hoagie or something to that effect, where they put the mushroom, saute onions, da da da. You all probably know that. Tomato, lettuce. I never let anybody put mayonnaise on my food, because they all use mayonnaise that has eggs in it. And so I would just go without any mayonnaise at work. Or if I thought about eating out, I would bring a little container with me of the vegan mayonnaise that I use. So it's just all kinds of ways you can protect yourself. You do not have to be on the road eating out and eat unhealthy. As I spoke about the prior week, you can always make arrangements for yourself to eat better. It's an excuse when we damage our bodies with unhealthy food. We're making excuses, and that's what we're doing. We're eating out constantly, making excuses, and we're getting all that sodium in us, which is, just like having embalming fluid. It raises your blood pressure. You can leave the house with a blood pressure of 120 over 70 and come back with 150 over 90 or something, because you've taken in just that much sodium while you were eating out in the restaurant. So it's all right to eat out sometimes. I'm not saying do not eat out. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is be mindful. Most of your food should be from home. And think about it. The thoughts that go into cooking. Prophet Noble Jolly used to tell the brothers, if you and your wife have an argument, don't you eat that food. Don't eat the food. The thought, because of the thoughts. We were taught as very young how to go in the kitchen and pray and meditate before we go into the kitchen. We always have to wear our white turbans on, and we had to put on white uniforms on when we were in the kitchen cooking. Everything is science. Remember, it's chemistry in that kitchen. That's chemistry. And so your thoughts have to be good so that the food can turn out. You ever had a really rough day and then you go in the kitchen and cook something and you burn yourself? The food burned, everything is all topsy turvy because your thoughts were not good when you went into that kitchen, and the kitchen could be dangerous. So we have to make sure we're in our right frame of mind when we're going into a kitchen setting. And all of this is important. I know some of you all, oh, I don't feel like hearing that. That's why you didn't want to come, watch the show, and someone probably told you what I was talking about and you're not interested. But this is Real Morris Talk. And we're talking about things that are real, that happen to us every single day. And one of our things is we have to change our diets and clean our diets up. And we may not get rid of everything, but we get rid of most things. And I want to say this before I lose my train of thought. Prophet Noble Jolly said, when you eat a piece of flesh, like say you don't eat flesh for 2-3 years, let's just say, and all of a sudden you get a craving, you call it craving, or somebody introduce you to some fried chicken or something like that, and you want to eat some chicken or whatever. Do you know it takes 7 years to get that out of your form? So it takes 7 years of you say, oh, I just did one bite of chicken or whatever, or I just ate a wing or whatever. It takes 7 years. So is that wing worth 7 years? Because now you've done all this work. You're at 3 or 4 years, or maybe at 7. And now you got to start all over again for 7 years to get that flesh out of your form. It's a process. Again, it's science. because once you eat it, it goes to your digestive tract, and your digestive tract now spreads out to the rest of your body, and all that goes through your whole entire body. Now you have to try to cleanse your body out to try to get that out of your form. 7 years. So that's, write that down as something to think about. 7 years. Okay. All right. So when a person always wants something to eat sweet after they eat their dinner, it's conditioning. You do not have to have something sweet. You want something sweet. I mean, that's what we have to realize between what we need and what we want. And so if you want something sweet after dinner, every day, if that's what you want to have, you have to pick and choose. Maybe not every day, maybe a small piece of. Maybe instead of having 2 scoops of ice cream, you'll have 1 scoop of ice cream. Maybe instead of having a great big piece of cake, you'll have a smaller piece of cake. Maybe instead of eating 2 donuts, you'll eat 1 donut. It's these things that we can do to try to get ourselves on the right track, because everybody enjoys sweets. It's not nobody, like I said, I don't know that enjoys sweets except for those who like salt. But that's what they like, is salt. But the bottom line is, it's just some type of way you're treating or satisfying yourself with it. We don't want to overindulge in it. Okay. All right. All right. So you ever notice too, when you eat, as I was talking about, your moods change, your mood shift. So if you sit there and eat a great big old piece of cake and some ice cream, your mouth's gonna feel dry. You're gonna feel anxious, anxiety, right? Because of all the sugar. Because now we're not children, so you just can't bounce it all around, right? So you have all this anxiety from eating the sugar, and so now your mood changed. So now you're cranky if someone calls you for something or talk to you about something, then you're a little bit cranky, right? Because you got all this built up inside of you and you need to release it. All right. All right. So one of the things that we have to do is we need to try to break the patterns. And so I know I give you all a lot of challenges. I asked you all to do the 7-day challenge. I don't know if some of you were really interested in doing the 7-day challenge or not, but the 7-day challenge is a really good way to start doing some fasting and getting yourself right to try to cleanse your body up. If you're interested in doing it, some of you may not even be interested in cleansing your body at all, and that's fine. But for those who are, I would like for you to do the 7-day challenge that I did put out there. And if you didn't start this third Friday, you can start next Friday. 7 days, 7-day challenge. All right. All right. So some of the things is it requires us to do, if you want to start looking more into what you're eating, the first thing you do when you go shopping is read food labels. Please read the food labels, and I can guarantee you, most of the things you see in those labels, you're not going to even want to eat. My mother's mother worked for Campbell Soup, and I'll never forget. My grandmother said she came home. She used to always, Campbell Soup stocked everything up, from the vegetarian beings to the spaghetti, whatever it was. We had basement full of those things. My grandmother was working. She got promoted to another position, and it has something to do with what goes inside the cans. And I never forget, when she came home, she was so upset. She was like, "Don't you all? I seen what goes inside those cans of Campbell Soup, and I don't want any of that food in my house." And she had a basement full of it. And so she was like, "Take that down to the dryer." She was telling my grandfather, "I don't want this food in my house. I don't want this food in my house." So whatever she saw going into those cans, and she was explaining how the food were packed in the cans, she didn't want to have it anymore. So she went from putting things on the belt to actually in the process of putting whatever was in the can. And she was also made a supervisor of that position. And she saw what went on there. And she was like, "No, get rid of that stuff out of my basement. Get rid of that stuff. I don't want it anymore." And I was like, wow. So our grandmother, she went through that phase of working for Campbell Soup, and whatever was in those cans or whatever happened in the processing, she didn't want to eat those cans anymore. So, now I have it psychologically. I don't like things in a can. Like, I don't like soda in a can. And I do buy like organic beans in a can, and most of, they say aluminum free or whatever. So some things, as you get older, I might buy it in a can, like the organic chickpeas, organic black beans, etc. I will buy those type things, but they're not treated the same as regular foods are treated. But if you can make your beans from scratch, you should do that. Whatever you can make from scratch, you should make from scratch. Okay. So now we have to ask ourselves some questions. Can this pattern be broken? So, can you break the pattern? So, if you find yourself having an unhealthy eating pattern, what are you going to do about it? The first thing I asked you all to do was to please read those food labels. Please. And if it has a whole bunch of ingredients in there and words you can't even pronounce, that's stuff that we should not be eating because you can't even pronounce it. And a lot of things are hidden under different names and different terms. So that's something you might want to do. That's the very first thing. Because again, if you're people that love McDonald's, they was like, oh, I love these McDonald's fries. I love these fries. And I'm, addicted to these fries. And I just have to have these McDonald's fries and all that. And one of the things that they found out is McDonald's fries were being cooked with beef fat, which is called, it's not called, let me see, largest pig fat, and oh, I can't think of the name. It's right on the tip of my tongue for the beef fat. But it's another name for that. They were cooking it with beef fat. And the reason that they got caught is because it was some Hindu sisters that were, I guess, working there, and they ate some of the fries or whatever and got sick from the fries. And come to find out, because it was being cooked in beef fat. And not that they don't eat beef fat, it's called tallow, I think, or something like that. But the bottom line is that they got sick from it, because they're not supposed to. I think they were the, Hindu signs that were vegan, because a lot of the Hindu signs are vegan, vegetarian. And you have some of them that do eat flesh, but most of them are vegetarians or vegan. And they got it's called tallow. That's what it's called, right on the tip of my tongue. And so people were addicted to those fries. Just gotta have them, get them hot, gotta have them. They just sit there, eat the fry, eat the fry, eat the fry before they eat anything else. They were addicted to the McDonald's fries. And so, what was on those fries that made you addicted? Not only was it what they were cooked in, it's the processing of the fries, the chemicals that they put to make you want those fries, to make you want those foods. They're chemically processed things, all kinds of chemicals on there to bring you back to that food. Okay. All right. So that's the very first thing you want to do. Ask yourself some questions. When do I start doing this? When do I start? Now. You don't have to wait to get off this call. You can start right while you're on this call. You have to make up your own mind that you want to eat better and eat differently. And when you do that, then it's all about your mind. Remember, this controls everything, your mindset. It really does. You ever notice that if someone said they're sick, you could be fine, and all of a sudden you start feeling like you're a little sick or achy or whatever? Because it's in your mind. So all of a sudden your mind is saying, oh, you're feeling this way or you're feeling that way. And we have to control that. We control our own mind. We have to control that. So that's the things you want to do. Just because someone else is eating a great big piece of chocolate cake does not mean you can't have it. Why are you going to eat it, especially if you have health conditions? One of the things they tell you when you have health conditions is take you off sugar. They take you off sugar. They take you off animal fat. They take you off all those flesh. So if they taking you off of these things, are they not good to eat in the first place? They have to remove them from your diet to try to get you healthy again. That should tell you something. Okay. All right. So some of the things you have to say to yourself once you decide to make these decisions is, what happens after I eat this? So you have to take foods and you have to keep yourself a food journal. And you have to write down, how do you feel after you eat certain foods? It's important. How do you feel after you eat certain foods? If you eat caffeine and you feel jittery after that, you don't want to do what? You don't want to have the caffeine, right? If you eat a lot of salt and you take your blood pressure and it's extremely high before you ate it, that you can't have the salt. You have to start removing things. So you have to ask yourself the questions, and how important am I am to myself? How important am I to my family? How important is my family to me that we want to make these changes? Okay? Because you have the ability to make change. All right. I see a lot of typing in the chat, so I'm going to stop for a minute before I go to my next portion and see what's going on in the chat. All right. Whoa, it's a lot in here today. I appreciate everyone that's typing in here. Let's see. It says, I am a duty. Love and unity is my duty. Assalamu alaikum, Madudi. Love and unity is the key to our freedom. Yes, that's Brother Madudi. Love is his duty. Yes, he tells us that all the time. I love you to life, Mo. Islam, that's Sheikh Bilal Amin Bey, Prime Minister, National Grand Sheikh Durriyyah Bey. Praise the Lord for continued guidance and fortitude. Sheikh Bilal, Islam, Islam. Blondell Sykes, Islam, everyone, and gracious. So, shukran for your donation, Blondell, also that you sent to us. We did receive it. Jazzy, Miss Jazzy, 1960, Grand Degree, Prime Minister. The topic of food is important, as I have certainly recently discovered that there was a lot of information all right in my body. You were saying that. I'm so grateful that you found that out. Also took starch, meat, and refined sugars out of my diet. There you go. So you're on the right track. And I remember I met his sister when I was in California, and she was saying, I introduced her to moringa, and she was saying how that her physician told her to take everything white out of her diet. And I laughed. She said, yes, white sugar, white bread, white pie, everything white. It was unhealthy. She said, he just told me if it's white, don't even eat it. Don't bother with it. So, that's how you start removing things. Even physicians today will tell you that. All right. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Islam, Moors, Muslims, nobles. That's Libe 2334. Islam, Islam. All right. Miss Jazzy 1960. I remember the first day of summer school holidays, we were given a spoonful of castor oil to clean out our systems. Folks do not do that anymore. you know, that's funny. My sisters and I, when we were at my mother's services, we talked about that castor oil, or Father, it was called Father John. I don't know if you all remember, it was a glass amber bottle. It was Father John. And we used to get a big spoon, you hold your nose and get a whole spoonful of that back in the day. Yes, the old elders, that's what they did back in the day. They gave you those tonics. And that's what I have my son on right now. I made a tonic for him because he's not feeling well. And I told him it's going to be bitter. And of course, the very first dose of the tonic is the worst because it's, the first one, and it's the strongest one. So you get your very first shot, and then you can dilute it after that. But the very first initial shot you take it at is the strongest one. If you can get that in, then you can get the rest of them in. So it's very, very important that we go back to old ways to health. The infamous Marty Marr, Islamism Prime Minister Durriyyah Bey Moore is in the chat. Islam, brother Marty Marr. Libe 2334, praise God Allah, supreme honors to the holy and divine prophet Noble Jolly, born January 8th, 1886 in the state of North Carolina, founded more scientific of America, love, true peace, freedom, and justice. Islam, 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 Islam. All right, and so he posted that in there a couple of times for us to see it. We do see it. Called tallow. Okay, see, I did before you put that in there. I'm glad I remembered it was called tallow, called memory to aid. But I was right. I'm glad you confirming what I said. Blondell Sykes, tallow. Yes, that beef fat. Shukran for that. Yes, I had to remind myself. When you don't eat those things, you have to remind yourself. Okay. All right, so that's brother. You all see brother Lee Bay put in the chat. He's talking about the Morris ancestral land deed, Ali Bay at El Cook County Recorder's Office, book 521. Yes, page 579. Our number is 1010 5905. Islam Shukran for that. Shukran for that. All right, and we appreciate you always wanting to remind us. Umi Ali Il, Grand Degree Prime Minister, and all more. Islam, Islam, Islam. So yes, if you all have anything about the health information in the chat, please, don't hesitate to share it, right? Because like I said, after next week when I do the cooking segment, we may not be on this particular, subject again. But if you have something to share, please share. All right. So I wanted to go on before I did my next segment of this, talking about this information. All right. So I have a quick question. Have you ever eaten without being hungry? Craved something at the same time every day? Felt tired after eating? If you say yes, if you have experienced this, it's because you are seeing tonight is not a personal trait, it's learned behavior. So it's learned behavior that you find yourself wanting that. I didn't get myself a napkin. A napkin. If I can get a napkin, it's learned behavior, and so you've taught yourself this behavior. So that's just learned behavior, as we spoke about earlier. Food is not just food influences. It's talking about energy, focus, discipline, and decision making, and all over time it shapes lifestyle. Okay, so when we discuss food, we are not just discussing meals. We're talking about patterns that affect your daily living. And I'm saying that in so many words, it's really important that foods that affect your daily living, it's really important when you're doing foods that affect you everyday life. Okay, it's really important that we choose the right foods. I just have to talk and just clean off my face. All right. So the thing is that we want to become more familiar of our triggers. And again, if you have a food diary, that's going to help, with those triggers. And I know if I said diary, but listen, like I said the last time, when you take the composition book, you can write these things down. More, a lot of times we have to remember things by writing them down. When you write things down, it helps you recall memory to aid. And some of the things that you're trying to work on, you can work on those things, but you have to just write them down. You have to take time for yourself. I think that's really important. I think a lot of us do not take time for ourselves. And so everything else becomes important to us except for ourselves. And I think it's important that we make sure that we make us important, because think about it, without you, your household would fail. Without you, there would be no you. There would be no way for you to take care of your family. There'd be no way to teach. Your very existence will be missed. All you have to do is take the time to take care of yourself. That's all you have to do. Take that time. Okay. When certain patterns are formed, we have to try to break them. So I know I have a really bad habit. I try to start my breakfast early. Like today, I was up really, really early, and I still got my breakfast around the same time when I don't start early. I found everything else to do instead of getting that in. And so that's something I said I wanted to work on, because the earlier I fuel my body, and unless I'm going to fast the whole day. So if I decide, well, I want to fast through breakfast, I want to fast through lunch. And that's when I have to start telling myself. So if I do not eat by 12 o'clock, my time in Eastern time, then I just need to fast until dinner. There's just some things that we have to start controlling ourselves, trying to put, because we talk about managing time all the time management, and manage ourselves into time. We have to manage ourselves into the time, even around our meals, to cook healthier meals, to take care of our families, to get your home clean. We have so many things that we have to manage ourselves around time for. And this would be a great time to do that. Okay. All right. Let me see. I want to get into some of the things about the research of food and some of the Asiatic researchers that found some of the things in the food. Okay, so all right, so we're talking about again this whole program today was that you're craving foods, but you're being programmed, and I want you to understand that you're being programmed to do that. You're programming yourself. The food that is put out there is programming you. The taste, want to eat more, so you put those bag of chips. You can't put them down. You got to eat the whole entire bag. You know that type of stuff. We have to start controlling it. Who is the powerful one? You are. It's all in your thought, in your power to do so. All right. So, some of the research areas for food environment by design, consumer behavior psychologically, and production, placement, and marketing influence on food. All right. So, this is called Wang Sink Brain, and this was a study done at Cornell University. And I wanted to give you all some references to the information I'm talking about. Research on how environment affects eating behaviors. The book is called Mindless Eating: Why We Eat More Than We Think. The key findings is people ate more based around their surroundings, not hunger. So a lot of times people are not hungry. They're just eating because of their surroundings. Because a lot of times if you ate something before you left the house and then you went to a social gathering and then you're eating again, it's not because you're hungry. And if we eat right, we would not feel hungry. That's what I love about Dr. Sabi's electric foods. It's these electric fries that I never forget. I made and onion rings and Sheikh Daoud Alontu Bay. I think the very first time I actually seen him in a physical form might have been there. No, it was after. It was. I saw him before them, but anyway, he came to visit me one time. It was like a whole week. He was, visiting me back and forth, and I cooked for him every day. And this is when I mean, he was really excited about trying to eat some of the food, and I made these fries and onion rings that electric. These were with the electric foods, and he loved them. And I think Kende came with him one time, but they enjoyed all of the food. To make a long story short, and they felt energized from the food. So these are electric foods. That's what Dr. Sabi taught. His mission was electric foods, foods that energize your cells. Okay. Cohen and Farley. These are not, I'm talking about these people, but I'm going to get into some Asiatic researchers. Cohen and Farley in 2008, eating as an automatic behavior, preventing chronic disease. The CDC journal says eating is often automated, not conscious decision making. So a lot of times again, we talked about that earlier, you eat, but you're not really conscious of what you're eating, or you just eat because the food is there, or you got a craving for something, right? Because you condition yourself to do so. Okay. And Nestle Myron, Public Health Nutrition book found is called Food Politics, and it explains how industry shapes food choices through policy and marketing. All right. Why you keep craving the same things over, the research is the dopamine and reward system. We talked about that the prior week. Sugar addiction like behavior and ultra processed foods. These are key studies that's done around these foods. So the people that make these foods know that this is in their food. They know this, but it's all about their bottom dollar for that fiat. So, and then you'd have to look at too that big pharma, if they didn't keep us unhealthy, they wouldn't make any fiat. If everybody stopped today and just used natural means, the herbal industry has gotten ridiculously priced with their prices. Also, when you're trying to now purchase herbs, it's very hard to sell a decent price to the people who are purchasing your product because everything is sky high. Right? Even gold and silver right now is at the most ridiculous price I've ever seen gold and silver at. But it's very, very hard to get. And golden seal is one of those foods that everybody knows about. Everybody. And should use it. Golden seal. All right. All right. So you are being programmed. about your food. Evidence shows that sugar addiction, neuroscience, and behavior reviews. Sugar activates brain reward systems similar to addictive substances. And we talked about sugar being a dangerous food. Here in one of our health classes, we teach the children about the dangers of sugar. Again, everything in moderation, but sugar can be very, very dangerous, and people will not stop eating it because of the way it tastes. Okay. Yale University Food Addiction Scale identifies addictive like eating patterns in humans. Schultz, Avena, and Gerhardt, 2015. Which foods may be addictive? Highly processed foods, fat and sugar combinations, and most likely to be addictive behavior. And so think about cake. Cake is good, it's yummy. Oh my goodness. But in cake, we got flour, we got sugar. If you're using butter, it's butter or coconut oil. If you're using almond milk, it's not, but people use regular milk. However you making it, all the ingredients into a cake, it makes it yummy, taste good. Most of the ingredients that you use it, if you're not choosing healthier options, is very unhealthy. And so cake would be one of the dangerous foods because all of that processing. Me, my cakes are pretty healthy because I use agave, even though agave is a sweetener and it is a sucrose. I mean, it's a fructose because it's a agave is actually from the cactus plant, right? Agave, and so, but it's a fructose, but it's healthier, But still, in all, it could be used dangerously too because it is a fructose. And so it doesn't immediately hit the glycemic index like regular sugar, but it does rise it. It can rise it in large amounts of it. People make tequila out of agave. So those things. So, but you have to find healthier alternatives. Coconut sugar, monk fruit sugar. And because we're conditioned with the cane sugar, beet sugar, that we really have to start acquiring a taste for other types of sweeteners because most of us are so used to the way sugar makes things taste that it's very difficult to imagine anything else than regular sugar when you're trying to cook food. So you have to not tell people that what sugar that's in there if they want to try your sweet potato pie or your cake, and then let them eat it first, and then oh, that's good or whatever. Because mentally, we can say, oh, it don't taste the same or it doesn't taste good because our minds mentally. So a lot of times you have to, let people figure it out for themselves. But it's a lot of healthier alternatives. Lots of healthy alternatives. Okay. All right. So how patterns are formed. Research, habit loops, behavioral conditioning, and cue response systems. Key studies and sources. We have Doug E. Charles, The Power of Habit, based on MIT research. Wood and Neal, 2007, A New Look at Habits. So these are all information that you all can look up in reference to the processing and programming of how the foods are processed and programmed for us that it makes us keep coming back or want to continue to come back to those foods. Okay. We have a psychological review that was done by Neil Wood and Quinn in 2006. Repeated behaviors become automatic and less conscious over time. What you were never told about food, the hyper palate foods. Okay, so these are hyper foods that really get the palate going. Foods that, your palate desires, deserves over and over again. Definition of hyperpalate foods is it's done in an obesity journal because it's saying that a lot of people who are obese have this problem. But I've found people who were obese who is not even about the food, is about getting the food in. And they're satisfied with just getting it in because, like, sometimes the way that they get it, can you taste it? When they're putting it in their mouth, can you even taste the food the way that they're doing it? So, but these foods are engineered with fat, sugar, sodium, and they increase consumption. So people like the way it tastes. All right, Bliss Point, food engineering. Howard Moskowitz, a food scientist, developed the Bliss Point concept for food companies, optional of sugar, salt, and fat mixture cravings. So they tell people how to make you come back for food. This is the things they design foods for you to keep coming back where you cannot resist them. Ultra processed foods and overeating. Hall, that was a 2019 study done at NIH. So as you can see, they studying people with the food. They studying you and finding out how they can keep you coming back. That's the whole point. That's what's being done to keep you coming back. All right. Cell metabolism. People eat 500 more calories per day on ultra processed foods. Ooh, just think about that. Some of us shouldn't even eat over 500 calories, but I think the least amount I've ever done was like 1,000 calories, 900 to 1,000 calories a day is food. Blood sugar levels spike. That's another thing. High glycemic foods cause rapid spikes and crashes in your blood sugar. So you eat something that's real sugary, tastes really, really good. You eat it, your spike sugar is spiking, and then you come down on a crash. It crashes. So that, almost like children. So adults is a little bit different because children can run it off. They run back and forth, but a lot of times most of us adults are sedentary. So if you're not going to the gym or taking a walk or something like that, then you have all that excess sugar and you're not burning it off or anything. And so when you come down and crash, it's going to be very uncomfortable. You're going to feel lethargic and tired when you come down off of it. Artificial sweeteners and appetite sweeteners. So the trend in endocrinology and metabolic artificial sweeteners may disrupt the hunger regulation. So if you're taking artificial sweeteners into food, is not telling you that you're hungry, so you might consume more of something with artificial sugar, and it because it's not signaling that you're hungry. That's what it's talking about. Liquid calories. Okay, and this is a good one. Soda. A lot of people love soda. I have a family member that just drink Coke all day long. Stop and get Coke. And no matter where you are, have a cup of Coke and ice everywhere you go. People are addicted to those drinks, those soft drinks. And those are empty calories. But a lot of people are really addicted to them. It's nothing but sugar in a can. Okay. All right. So salt, sugar, fat, and how the foods hook up inside of your body, and you want repeat consumption. So we talked about the free radicals in your body again, and if you're those, she keep talking about these free radicals, but look them up. So free radicals, as I talked about the prior week, are those radicals that go around and they recruit healthy cells. That's how they stay alive. It's a recruit. They recruit. All right. And as they get healthier cells underneath them, they cause more damage. And so this is what we don't want. We don't want to have a bunch of free radicals running around our body. So how do we start getting rid of free radicals? What do we do to get rid of them? Okay. All right. So a lot of this is based on science and research. And today everything is online, just about everything is online. So you can do a lot of research of what I'm telling you online. You can look up free radicals online. I'm sure it's going to pull it up for you. You can even pull up probably a food that you eat. If it's a food that's a big food that people, a lot of people buy it or eat it or whatever, I'm sure it's online. I'm sure you can pull it up online even before you go to the grocery store, because we know reading food labels are important. But say, you order your food, you don't like to go out, which you should get out and get some vitamin D and walking. But just say that the point. If that's the point, you can ask what's in that food. And if there's something that you're not understanding, write it down And then, hey, you're at your computer, look it up, or your phone, look it up and find out what it is. Please just stop putting any old thing in your body because it's not worth your health. We could be a lot healthier people. And listen, we're trying to work on growing our own foods, and that's fine. And buying from others, that's wonderful. But for the foods that you cannot get from somewhere else and you have to go to another market, I was watching Roland Martin. They've had this whole week about domestic violence, and we're going to talk about some of that. I'm really, really angry with a lot of what's going on. They showed over 200 women that were killed by domestic violence. We're going to talk about that. But anyway, one of the brothers on there, I think his name is Michael, he was saying that they, how now they have Asiatic farmers who they can get their foods from. And I remember Sister Shakura, and I'm trying to get that link from her, sent me some information about a Asiatic farmer. I think they were of Africa, I think they're maybe nationality, I'm not sure, but I know that the continent from they're from is Africa, that they have it where you can buy fruits and vegetables from them. So, and it's going to be a lot healthier. So we have to start doing that. And listen, I know that when you buy a bunch of fresh fruit, I never forget Sister Cynthia and her sister came here, and they were telling me that the reason they stopped buying so many fruits and vegetables is because it would go bad very quickly. So what you do is when you get your fruits and vegetables, cut them up and put them in a freezer. Right, that's what you do. Get a good freezer bag, cut them up and put them in the freezer. That way, when soon as you get the vegetables, whatever you're not using that day, cut them up and put them in the freezer. And that way you'll have fresh vegetables still. They're frozen, but you'll have them and you're able to go right ahead and eat those, and it won't go bad as fast. You can freeze just about anything from greens to onions to, I wouldn't to tomatoes unless you're not, and you're just going to use them for like stew or soup or something like that. But just about every vegetable you can freeze now today. So you can get your fresh vegetables, clean them up really good, dry them, and store them. So that way you'll have those. You don't, because we want to start trying to purchase from each other. And I understand every 3 days, I used to wait every 3 days and go back and get fresh vegetables because, if you get a whole bunch of fresh vegetables, you don't get to eat them all. But like I said, what I started doing, and this was years and years ago, is freezing them. We used to have it where the truck would come around. I don't know how many you might remember that, but the man on the truck would come around, and I think Sheik Bilal told me it's called A-Rabbing, but they would come around on a truck and they would sell you fruits and vegetables, and you would purchase those fruits and vegetables. And we did, and we washed them off and we cut them up and we stored them. All right, so there's all kinds of ways that you can do that. I'm going to take a sip of water. All right, so we want to try to buy more fruits and vegetables fresh, and we want to try to buy them from our own people if we can. And if you cannot buy organic, try to buy what's called considered farm vegetables, and that's like your local farmers, or like they call farmers markets. Most of the farmers markets are your local farmers that have food that they sell. And try to go to like the farmers market. When I was living in Jersey, we didn't have one in Jersey that was really close to us. We had to go all the way to what called Quaker territory, where it was quicker to just go to Philly and go to Ninth Street because you can get on a train if you didn't want to drive. And also it was closer than going all the way to further down to southern Jersey. It would take you 2-3 hours to get there, maybe 15, 20 minutes to get to Philly. But the good thing was a lot of Asiatics was out there selling their produce at the farmers market. And so you can get lots of vegetables out there. Like I said, make sure you wash them really good, dry them, and freeze them. It's important to do that. Okay. All right. So we talked about the science behind, and I didn't want to get all scientific on you all, but behind us eating certain foods. And we know that dopamine plays a really big part of satisfaction, satisfying you to give you the satisfaction that you want. So you have this release, it feels good, and you just want more and more of that because the body loves that, to feel good, to want more things that pleasure you. And so this is why it's very, very important that we have to control what foods we're going to allow ourselves to be pleasured by. And so we have to start controlling that situation. It's really, really important. I'm going to stop for a minute and take a look at the chat again to see what we have in the chat. I like to, always, always invite you into the chat. Okay. So eating to live instead of living to eat. Absolutely. That was Miss Jazzy 1960, Lady Thorough, Islam Umi Islam, Islam. That's my daughter, Islam. Miss Jazzy 1960. Coke can clean a car battery. I have done it when it would not start. You're right. Also, it's a combination of Coke that you can use to clean up blood. People didn't know that too. Fizzing up Coke is very dangerous. It's just nothing but chemicals. Someone Aki XW4CP. Greetings, Prime Minister and family. I would like to share a healthy recipe. 2 well-ripe bananas, 2 eggs, 1 cup of peanut butter, and as much blueberries as you want. Then bake at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. Okay. Well, I do not eat eggs, and so and I'm allergic to bananas. So what could I do in place of that? Allergic to bananas, and I do not eat eggs. So what can I do in place of that? All right, because I love peanut butter. I love blueberries. So, and I would just love to know how I can make that. I mean, I have an idea because I don't eat eggs, what I can use as an egg substitute. I could always use, but I'm not sure, bacon. But I know for a fact that flaxseed I can use as an egg substitute. And banana, can I use avocado? Because I do not eat bananas, I'm allergic to them. So let me know. Okay. All right. So they said put in the oven for like 20 minutes. So for those who are interested, you've seen it in the chat. That's a recipe that you can do. And they say it's done in like 20 minutes. All right. It sounds like an oat bread that I make because I make, me and my granddaughter, she, some things when you get children to do some things, my youngest granddaughter. So we used to make these oat squares where I put raisins and walnuts in the oat squares. We make them and we use it with flaxseed and make them in there and we cut them down and they taste so, so good. And you can cut the slices of it. And what she used to like to do is when she ate them, she would like to put a little bit of peanut butter on top of them. All right. Or you can cut them open and put a little bit of vegan butter inside. So good. They're called oat squares. So sounds a little bit like that, but I use flaxseed oil and I use, oats and raisins and walnuts and things like that. But just the two things, eggs and the eggs and what is it, the banana. Yes. All right. All right. So let's get through wrapping this up. We have like 30 minutes left over to the show. And I wanted to really make sure that we kind of understood what we were talking about here today. Their foods, you're being programmed how you eat. And so you have to how to eat to live is what we have to want to do. We need to, and I know this is not comfortable for a lot of people who may be overweight, people who just like to eat what they like to eat and they don't want to hear about it. But I have to say, how is your health? Because for people who just want to eat any kind of way they want to eat, they don't want nobody to say nothing to them about how they eat, and then what's the outcome? Tell me what the outcome is when you just eat whatever you want. What is the outcome to that? Is there anywhere in your life that you can feel like you could place in your life that you could try to eat healthy? Because when I was young, I used to hear people always say, "Oh, I'm a meat and potatoes man" or whatever. And so it was very hard for me to date because I was like, "You're not getting no meat and maybe some potatoes I might could do, but I'm not going to do no flesh over here like meat and potatoes. That's just crazy. Meat and potatoes. Where's the vegetable? No vegetable at all." And I have to think I think I shared it with the week prior. So when you make your meal, a lot of times, like you notice that when you're out eating, they give you salad first, and people say, "Oh, that's just to fill you up so you don't eat all the food." That's another mindset. The science of the salad is to go into your body first, because remember, the very first thing that enters the body is what your glucose levels and everything your chemistry runs off of. So yes, it may fill you up, which is a good thing, the fiber, but the bottom line is that's what you're putting into your body to feed you, the fuel for your body. That's what you're doing. So you should always eat your salad first. So whenever you're out eating or you're out dining with someone or whatever, and they offer you salad, say yes. I mean, most people like salad. They just don't want to eat salad for the rest of their lives. Or if you have some digestive problems where you cannot eat raw food, ask them, do you have any cooked vegetables that I could eat? And try to eat your cooked vegetables first. Try to get in the healthy foods first before we take in the carbohydrates, okay, and the flesh or whatever. Try that first and see. These are just tips that I'm trying to give you. Try to drink a glass of water and eat the vegetables first, and then consume the rest of your meal. You will be able to feel the difference. And yes, if you get full, it's all right. If you're full, you can. If you what they consider a doggy bag, I don't even like that term, but it came from people who used to take their leftovers home to their dogs. But most of the time, what people do is they take it home and they'll eat it, or maybe they will not eat it, but they just do not want to leave it there. But all it's about mindset. For me, when I eat out, most of the time, if I do, I try to leave whatever's there, because I know that it's not the same as what I fix at home. So why would I want to continue the pattern when I get to my home? So you do not have to take a bag with you when you go out to eat. You don't have to say, "Oh, if you don't eat all your food, yes, put it in the bag, doggy bag or whatever." You do not have to do that. Okay, you can leave it right there. It's okay. You don't have to eat everything. It's all right if you leave it. There's some things might want to take with you. You might not have it the next day, but maybe a day or so after that, as long as it's not too many days. You don't want it past 7 days in the refrigerator. And once you do that, and eat it up or whatever. But always, even if it's leftovers, say when you have the leftovers, but there's no green vegetable or no nutrition with it, get yourself a salad or some vegetables, real vegetables, and eat those. Cook yourself some vegetables and eat those, some green beans, some kale, something. Eat your vegetables first and then consume the rest of it. It's just ways to chemistry. Remember, we're talking about chemistry here. Wonderfully, beautifully, and wonderfully art thou made, right? Our bodies. So we want to take care of them. So we signal them to our body that this is what I'm going to put in me first. Now the junk is going to come, but this is what I want you to fuel off first. And that's what you need to do. And even if you do like a green drink, some people say, well, they don't like to really chew vegetables, so they can do a smoothie or green smoothie. A lot of restaurants can make smoothies, kale smoothies, spinach smoothies. They can make all kinds of smoothies for you. You can drink your vegetables down. It's easier on the digestive system. Whatever you want to do, just try that pattern of eating. Okay, make sure you try that. All right. Let's see if I have any more before I continue on. Taking a little break. Okay. Oh, someone said I would like. Okay, I would like. This is a. Oh, you could. Oh, you would use oats and sweeten with some date paste. Okay. All right. So I would use oats and sweeten it with date paste. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna remember that. I'm gonna try that because I like to try recipes. I make a lot of recipes. That's how I come. I have a cookbook. I do not mind trying other recipes too as well, but I'm not really big on the date syrup and stuff. Date paste. I don't think I tried date paste, but I could certainly make some. Well, yes, I have, because when I make the cheesecakes and use the dates to sweeten the crust, that's date paste. So yes, I have used date paste mainly in baking though. So mainly in baking, but dates are so sweet. I remember one time I made a smoothie during Ramadan when it was time to break fast and rising, and I made the apple and date because that's what I do during Ramadan, apple and date smoothie. And I remember this one time I was just throwing dates in there, cutting them up because you got to cut dates in real small, fine little chips so they blend good. I don't know about you. I don't have a bullet blender or any that always gets dates really good. Maybe somebody can, tell me about one that I can. But anyway, I cut them up real small and blend them, and I didn't realize how many I was cutting. Normally, I would count about 5 dates and cut them. I put them dates and then blended them up, then put that in there, and it was so sweet. It almost gave me a headache. Rushed all that. I know it's fructose sugar with dates, but still too much. So be careful with dates because they can be really, really sweet. And I tried date syrup. I'm not really a fan of date syrup, but I've tried it, the date syrup. I apologize. I'm really thirsty today. I've been drinking herbs today. In my household, people are not feeling well, so I have a tonic that I made, and it dries everything up. So I'm gotta keep putting water in. But nature, we gotta take care of ourselves. Nature, okay. The Adept More 7 for eggs. You can use ground. Oh yes, that's what I talk about. Ground flaxseed and can replace bananas with applesauce. Yes, yes you can. Shukran for that. You can replace bananas with applesauce, or you can also use avocado to make. I've used avocado eating to make ice cream, and you can do that. And certainly, replace it because I just cannot do the bananas. But shukran for that. I love the way you all come up with the information to assist me too as well. It's very very soothing to know that. And so, like I said, so I want to get back to. So one of the things is that we talked about these two segments. The first segment was "Are you what you eat?" And one of the things is, "Are you what you eat?" Questioning you to find out, are you what you eat? The things that you put into your body, does that define who you are? Because, your outer appearance as well. And people say, oh, you don't look your age, prime minister, whatever. And the bottom line is, I strive to take care of my body. Everyone has something going on, but I strive to take care of myself. And I know that what I put inside of me reflects on the outside. So that's really important to know. What you put in reflects out. So what you put in, remember that reflects out to the outer appearance. So it's really, really important that you want to watch what you're putting inside of your body because it's going to reflect what you look like on the outside. You know how you can tell a individual that smokes or drinks. You can look at them and just tell they smoke and drink. For one, cigarette smoke, you probably can smell it. You can smell the cigarette smoke. It's ranking of that. And two, the alcohol or the way that they look on the outer appearance, shrunk up and sunken, things like that. Those things that alcohol does to you or whatever. So, you ever go behind the bathroom behind someone that eats flesh? You can't you can't go to the bathroom behind them. It's going to take about 20 minutes for the bathroom to clear out, especially those heavy flesh eaters. So you don't have enough bathroom spray in the world to spray that away. When people that eat a lot of flesh and their stomachs is always tore up, or eat a lot of grease, or eat out all the time, or greasy foods, those are things that can be changed, and you can change. And I noticed a lot of Moorish brothers, beautiful beards, look so handsome, and then when you get down here, they got this great big gut sitting down like that. That's a good eating. That's unhealthy eating. Do you know that gut that sits out like that is a major risk for heart attack? So just because you're a Moorish brother don't mean you need a gut out like that. The prophet never looked like that. A lot of you all say you like to mimic yourself after the prophet, the way he dressed. That's why y'all hang yourself with those ties. The prophet never looked like that, founder or reincarnated. The only man that looked like that was with one of the people that came after the prophet, and he's not a prophet, was Timothy Dingle Ill. His brother Richardson was smaller, but Timothy had a gut like that. But that's unhealthy. That's not healthy. That's very unhealthy. So it's not. I remember one brother from the East told me, "Oh, coming over here, I was very small, but now I have a rich man's belly." And I said, "You have a rich man's belly, stress, and heart attack." Because a lot of people think that success coming over here to the United of the States, they get that big old gut, that's a sign of success. That's not a sign of success. That's a sign of unhealthiness. So even us as women, we just don't want to have, I'm not saying everyone's going to be thin. There's people that are on the heavier side or whatever. What I'm saying is that you have to take better care of yourselves. And so these topics here on Real More Talk is important because I'm trying to tell people how to eat to live better, not live to eat, but eat to live. Where you don't have to have flesh every single meal. If you're a flesh eater, you don't have to have flesh every single meal. It's not, you do not have to have it every single meal. Okay, you can have other alternatives to that. That's not mandatory to do that. And if you're still going to eat flesh, as I said in the prior week, then you have to make healthier choices of flesh. Stop eating stuff. A lot of Moors want to still eat pig feet and hog walls and pork, and they'll use the oral prophecies that say that that's what they eat. And listen, that's some of the things in the oral prophecies. Prophet Noble Jolly did not say. He did not tell you to eat pig. He did not say it's not going to hurt you or whatever, or he going to go to somebody's house and eat it. Those are things that are untrue. But people who still want to eat it will make an excuse for it because they still want to eat it. And that's not true. And I tell you how untrue it is. I saw today someone sent me a clip today on, I think it's TikTok, on Elvis Presley talking about Ajax and the Moors. And everybody's so excited about it. Y'all know that's AI generated. Elvis Presley was not even that smart or educated or anything about that. And it's AI generated. So they generated through AI and make you think, oh, Elvis Presley said it, so it got to be true. And people are sharing it all over the place. I didn't even share that nowhere. When somebody sent it to me and I looked at it, I said, this is ridiculous. This is AI generated. And no disrespect for the individual that sent it to me, because I know you was trying to enlighten me, but it's AI generated. Elvis Presley ain't never talked about no Moors or anything positive about Moors or Ajax or anything to that degree. So that's the thing I'm saying. So today, you have to be so careful with everything that's out there. You have to just really be careful. And so take the time to take care of yourself. Make sure that when we, in our health class, we created a kit, a survival kit. And in that kit, a lot of people say, oh, I don't need a glucose monitor because I'm not diabetic. You should have a glucose monitor, a blood pressure cup, Band-Aids. You should take aloe, dried aloe, scrape the aloe out of inside or put it in a jar or scrape it out. These are the things you should have inside of a emergency kit. So you can take your glucose levels if you need to. You're in a situation that you can't get back home. You can take your blood pressure. And they got all kinds of blood pressure cuffs out there. So they have the ones on your wrist, the automatic ones you can put on your arm. So there's all kinds of ways that we can take care of ourselves and read our vital signs, write them down every single day. These are the things, especially as you get elder. They say, oh, people had a heart attack or a stroke, they didn't know because they didn't take their blood pressure. So that's something that you want to do. Maybe if you have no health conditions, take your blood pressure every other day, or once a week to just monitor it. Take your glucose once a week to just monitor it. We're talking about being healthy here. So you want to do everything in your power to try to stay healthy. And a lot of people, suffer from gout. They eat a lot of sweets and sugar. Their feet, legs hurt. They have cramps and things in their feet and legs. Well, that comes from what they consider rich foods, or they used to call it the rich man's disease or whatever. Unhealthy. You say people who ate a lot of lobster and butter, but it could be anybody that you can get gout from. Okay, it's another disorder. So just a lot of things that we can take care of ourselves, that we do not have to be ill today, and we do not have to eat unhealthy today. It's a choice. You are programmed to believe that you need to have a food on every occasion, no matter what it is. I know for food they have certain foods that will go with the holidays, because I know we grew up with it. Potato salad, with potato salad, my mother made sure we always had greens. Potato salad, we had greens. So we always balance out our meals. That's something that she did try to do when we were younger, is balance our meals out. So we would not have the same, like a whole bunch of starches and no vegetables. So you had to eat your vegetables at the table back then. Today, children are not taught to eat vegetables. They don't like vegetables. They say that they're nasty, they're icky, or whatever. So we have to try to condition our children. And remember, we talked about this starts very, very early in age. Let me give you an example. You ever seen where someone gave a child a piece of flesh and the child chew it up and spit it out? The baby chew it up and spit it out. That's telling you that they don't want it, they don't need it, they're not able to process or digest it. So why would you keep trying to give it to them? Now they'll take down the baby food vegetables and the baby food rice and all of that. But when it comes to that flesh, they cannot process it. And you shouldn't give it to them. So if you can start your child off, if you have young children and they're not interested in that flesh, don't force it on them. Don't make them eat it. Okay, it's not important for them to have that to eat. There's other ways to get protein in it. We talked about the week prior with beans. All sorts of beans have protein in them. You can, I mean, listen, we're going to make the chickpea, we're going to make the curry chickpea. Chickpeas are one of my favorite beans. They're so good. They taste really good. And you can make everything from brownies with them. I mean, so much you can do with chickpeas. And so we have to start, making sure that we're getting the protein in. If that's what we're interested in, if we're worried about protein, then use other sources of protein to get it in. And in this electrified age, look it up on the computer. Find out what beans have the highest amount of protein, if protein seems to be your issue. All right. But I'm just saying we're in a electrified age now where we have to stop making excuses and we have to find solutions to our problems. That's what we need to do. Okay. All right. All right. I am just about done wrapping up my information that I have. I want to talk about the Asiatic researchers, that some of the research that they did. All right. So we're going to go here with some of these names I was practicing them before I came on. So Eugenie Kaitesi, Kaitesi. His focus was processing nutritional indigenous foods. Research focuses on how food processes change nutritional value. He promotes indigenous African foods for better health outcomes. He highlights the difference between natural whole foods and processed food systems. What he wants you to take away from his information is the closer food is to its natural state, the less it interferes with the body. What we've been talking about. I've been practicing his name. Then we have Wanga Zombie McKeebill. His focus is food access, environmental behavior. His research for food show food choices are shaped by availability, economics, and systems. Demonstrates that people eat is often limited by environment, not true preferences. So he's saying that you don't have to eat every time, you're saying that you're hungry, you need to eat. You don't have to eat. All right, somebody say, oh, I'm so hungry, I'm famished, I'm going to pass out or whatever. He's saying that's not necessarily true. It's all in the mind. What he wants you to take away from his research is what people eat is often determined before they ever make a choice. And that's what we was talking about earlier, that you're programmed by these foods that you ate. And so now when you go to the store, you buy the same thing over and over again because you enjoyed the way it tastes. That's that food you really enjoyed it, so you're going to keep buying it over and over and over again. All right. Uh, Brother from the African Dietary Insight, he says you are being programmed, as I was saying, you are being programmed and you are what you eat. Traditional African foods that we should eat in our diet. He says we should have yams, cocoa yam. I haven't had that yet. I'm going to try what that is. And grains, whole wheat grains. These foods provide slow digesting carbohydrates and help maintain stable blood sugar levels. So that's his takeaway. Modern shift with processed foods, he says you to digest them faster. It causes rapid blood sugar and spikes and it increases cravings. So that's processed food. That's what it does. I want to say that one more time about processed foods. It Your body digests it faster, which means if you have glucose problems or diabetes, it's going to increase your blood sugars faster because it's processed. Rapid blood sugar levels spike, so you'll get up and down blood sugar levels and increase cravings. The key thing he wants you to know is when food digests too fast, hunger returns too fast. So when you get food, this is why when you eat food and it breaks down really fast and then you're hungry like an hour later or whatever from the processed foods. Okay. Sugar cravings and brain response supported globally. Even though much research is done globally, it applies universally, including African populations find out, and this is everybody everywhere, but mainly it's us. I'm always caring about us, nobody else. That you that despite is that the dopamine in the brain loves cravings, dependencies, and withdrawal effects can happen if you don't have the sugar. So if you're a person that eats a lot of sugar and all of a sudden you stop eating sugar like that, you're going to have some withdrawals. Carbohydrates, you can get what's called a carb headache. You can get a headache from that because your body is used to having those carbs. Okay. So, behavioral science insight, food behavior is influenced by repetition, environment, and emotional triggers. Okay, that's what it's induced by. Social gathering, stress, and economics, as we talked about earlier. Added sugars from packaged foods, even unhealthier ones, cause rapid sugar spikes, crashes, and repeated occurrence. Refined carbohydrates, white flour, processed grains convert quickly into sugar. Okay. This is designed to taste stronger than natural foods and can distort the real taste or reception of food, your perception of food. Salt, fat, sugar combinations rarely occur naturally together, highly stimulating to the brain. Key teaching: food today is not just grown, it's formulated in a lab. So, a lot of apples and things like that you get fruit are not fresh fruit, they're created in the lab. Okay. Research shown that as we as we're designed to, our food should be more natural as our bodies are. Okay, we should not have foods that are unnatural to our bodies. And research and health studies have shown in neuroscience that processed foods, fats, and sugars can affect your nervous system and cause all kinds of neurological problems for us. And so we're not designed to eat that. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we got that. Really quickly, I want to bring up some. I know you all probably say, oh boy, here we go. But I want to bring up for our Real Morse Talk that we have. Please, we've been on, this is our 13th episode, and we may have gotten one or two donations, and I'm not sure why you all will not donate. But Support our online schooling for Miss Moore's children. You can go to donate our $ online schooling MC. Help us keep our school afloat. You can go to circle7publishing.com and order books. And the Daughter of Drew Ali is our humanitarian organization. So please donate to one of those causes. For those who do not have Cash App, or those, or maybe you're international, you can donate. You can go to More Science with GSKS Durriyyah Bay, and you can put donations through there. They do credit cards through there from wherever you are. You can donate. If you want to purchase books, some of you all have gone to circle7publishing.com. You're going through there, set up a cart, but not completely process the books. Go to circle7publishing.com to get our books. And also, again, the Doors of Drew Ali is our humanitarian organization. So don't forget where that donate button is. See right there with that red arrow? More Science with GSK at theriabay.com. You can donate whatever you want. We take the smallest donation to the largest donation. We just ask you to support us and donate. Remember, cents and $1, $2, $3 make more dollars. Okay? If you want to send us an email, send us an email to realmorsetalk@yahoo.com. Okay, again, that's realmorsetalk@yahoo.com. Okay, so those are the things that we have. We would want you to support us. And listen, you can purchase the book. If you want to order it now, I can have the cookbook out to you before next Thursday. But what I am going to do is, like I said, what we're going to be doing, the recipe that we're going to be making, I'm going to go ahead and send that to you all so that you can get the ingredients in plenty of time. And I would love for you to join me in the kitchen, okay, next week. In the kitchen, cooking with Prime Minister, in the kitchen. That's my safe space. That's my therapy, along with crocheting. I have creation. The prophet told us we are created to make our own, and I love to create. And that's why my company was called Creative Fashions. A really good associate of mine said to me one time, "This is not hard to think about the name of your business." And this was over 40 years ago. She said, "Because you're always creating something. Just call it Creative Fashions," which made so much sense back then. I was on the runways trying to make it happen that way. But Allah had other plans. But anyway, I'm so glad that you joined me today in Shadow Hour on Real More Salt. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure having you all join me and in the conversation. I'm trying to incorporate more of you all conversation wise and go to the audience and look at your chats and things like that. We're also going to have a Mother's Day celebration. That'll be the Thursday before Mother's Day. So that'll be that first Thursday, I think, of May. Second Thursday. Anyway, Mother's Day, I think, is on the 11th. I think we're going to have a Mother's Day show that 7th. I'd rather do it before than after. So the prophet said the only day the European holiday that they got right was Mother's Day. So we do our ancient Mother's Day on Mother's Day, what they claim is Mother's Day. So we do that. So I'm really looking forward to having some sisters join me on the panel for Mother's Day to have some conversation and you get down and talk and support one another. I'm excited about that for Mother's Day. So if you're able to, send me an email to realmoretalk@yahoo.com so I can make sure that you're able to join us in conversation for that one. But please, Morse, join me in the kitchen next Thursday, right here on Real Morse Talk Shadow Hour. Please get those aprons on. If you got some white, if you do not have white, it's all right. But join me in the kitchen. Let's get down. Let's make some food. Let's have some conversation right here on Real Morse Talk, because this is what it's all about. Remember, we have to create our own platform, our own social gatherings, our own things that make us feel good, things that associate with one another to keep each other afloat. We get to do that here. So join me. I get excited every time I come every week, because no matter how I'm feeling, I know that I'm going to share some information with you all. And so that makes me happy. But please make sure you share this video. And listen, if you like our platform, hit that like or whatever, subscribe, whatever, and try to build our audience up and share it with someone. Okay, don't keep this information to yourself. Do not. Share it with someone. Okay. It's really important to continue to promote and support. And I look forward to seeing each and every one of you every single time. It says, where do you send donations for your two books? And so you can go to circle7publishing.com. It's right there, book circle7publishing.com, right there. If you just want to donate there, you can go to that donate button, and then you can go to more science with gsks.com. Okay, so they're all up here. You can do that. All right, and make sure that you join us because I'm looking forward to cooking with you on the kitchen next week. And it says, Madudi, it says, Islam, thanks for all that you do. I appreciate you more. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today here Thursday on Real Morris Talk. Today is actually the 23rd day. No, it's the 23rd day of April in the year 2026. Take care of yourselves, Moors. Take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time, Shadow Hour, Real Morris Talk will be cooking in the kitchen right here with me at Real Morris Talk. Peace, Moors. Stay safe and take care of each other, yourselves, and each other. Assalamu alaikum.